the maracas, I go chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom. Hey!
Welcome to No Laughing Matter with Cuba Pete, a show that takes a critical look at the disparities between medical school education and society's growing healthcare inequities. Join Dr. Pedro Cuba Pete Greer each episode as he interviews the experts working to transform medical education and ensuring that future doctors are trained to provide equitable and compassionate healthcare for all communities. Dr. Greer received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009, honoring his dedication to providing health care to underserved populations. As Dean of Roseman University College of Medicine in Las Vegas, Dr. Greer is committed to creating a medical school of the future where students embrace the need to unite the heart and science of healthcare. And now, the host of No Laughing Matter with Cuba Pete, Dr. Pedro Cuba Pete Greer.
Well, good day, everybody. Hi, I'm Pedro Joe Greer. I'm the Dean of the College of Medicine at the Roseman University College of Medicine. And welcome to the Substitute Studio A. We're recording today in our own studios because they had a little power outage. And we have some incredible guests. And remember, this is Cuba Pete, No Laughing Matter. It's about talking to individuals who are highly accomplished and seeing what they see and what they've done in the community, how that interacts with healthcare, what we as educators in the College of Medicine need to do differently to prepare better doctors. Not just more doctors, but better doctors. And I am honored today to have somebody who I consider a friend, a person who I've gotten to know, drank coffee at probably the best coffee place I've ever, what is the name of that place?
Vesta Coffee.
Vesta Coffee. So have you ever, it's right there on Sahara, right off of Fort Apache.
Yeah.
It is excellent. By the way, they just opened up in the Durango too.
And they got one in downtown on Main Street.
On Main Street, the original one. Well, I have Mr. Alex De Castroverde, an accomplished attorney, an accomplished citizen, a person whose name I knew before I even came out to Las Vegas. And I knew his name, I didn't know him, because of the reputation that somebody very, very important started, and that was his father. His father, and I'll start off with that, and then we're going to go into you, Alex, only because your father is such an admirable human being, and I'm Cuban also, so. His father, Waldo, was born in Havana. He was a paratrooper in the Bay of Pigs. He was a prisoner of war. Not only was he a prisoner of war, but he was actually one of the prisoners that helped negotiate to get the release of all of those that were captured in the Bay of Pigs. His best friend throughout this whole episode, I happen to know. He was the head of neurosurgery. He had come down from Minnesota at the University of Miami School of Medicine, of which I was at years and years ago. But that's not what made him special. It's doing all of that, moving to Reno, without a formal education, going to college at night, going to law school at night to become one of the very first Hispanic law firms that actually served the Hispanic community. From that, he had two boys, you and Orlando.
And my older brother, Waldo. So 3 boys.
Oh, 3 boys. I didn't know Waldo.
Yes.
Okay, I had never met Waldo. Okay, 3 boys. That's right. You have to have a Waldo. He was Waldo.
Yes, and our sister.
And a sister. Okay, I was only off by 2. But I'm getting there. Okay, good Catholic family, 4 kids. And you and your brother went on to own and start the De Castroverde Accident and Injury law firm based on your father's law firm and took that to another level. You're an incredible individual here. You're on the board of Cristo Rey, a school that we love, Las Vegas College Preparatory, Kenny Guinn Center for Policy Priorities, which I find incredibly important. I'm a trustee at the Rand Corporation. I think anything having to do with policy and policy analysis, which is super cool, on the advisory council for the Nevada Independent.
On the board now.
On the board, not just
privileged to stay
on the board, even cooler. On the Las Vegas Bowl Committee, and he is married with 3 daughters. Alex, why do you do all this?
First, Joe, thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, it's an honor to have you.
No, it's an honor. I consider you a good friend, and I'm proud when I share your story as as a Cuban American, what your dad started in Miami, I think we have a lot of similarities.
Exactly.
You followed your dad's footsteps, and I know you're making him proud every day. So that's what my brother and I are trying to do with our dad. So, but thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for sharing my dad's story. I was lucky that my dad and my mom was a Peter Pan kid. My mom was also born in Cuba. And when she was 15 years old, because Fidel Castro started taking over private property, taking over the media, and started indoctrinating the kids in schools with communism, a lot of parents, including my mom's parents, decided they didn't want their kids to grow up that way and put their kids on a plane and send them to Miami, never knowing when or if they were going to see them again. My mom was 15 years old when she was put on a plane. And thanks to the Catholic Church in Miami, they placed her in a boarding school in Richmond, Virginia.
I'm very familiar with Pedro Pan. It's all my generation, which makes me old. But having said that, Monsignor Brian Walsh, who ran the program, an Irish priest from Limerick, who was sent to Miami by the Jesuits because he didn't know how to speak a second language. And he told me the story of how it got started. Now, just to go back, for people that don't understand what happened in Cuba, this was an indoctrination of all children. My mother was a school teacher, and my mother told me that one of the things that the Communist Party would come in and tell the kids, put your head down on the desk, pray to God for ice cream, now look on your desk. Now put your head back down and pray to Fidel for ice cream, and they put ice cream on them. And so what it was to get our kids not be indoctrinated. And it was, of all things, an English nurse in Havana that called Brian Walsh, a priest in Miami, and said, I have about 200 kids here. At the time, the bishop was out of town. So Monsignor Walsh said, well, I don't know if I could take all 200, but send 25, and then I'll talk to the bishop when he returns to Miami. He said that when he went and talked to the bishop got mad at him because he only took 25. And that opened the door for thousands of kids that were put in. We housed kids in our house for Pedro Pan, actually. She ended up becoming, that she's retired now, but she was a sociology professor at the University of Chicago. And so, and actually, she mailed me the photograph of the note that was pinned on her shirt that had the address we lived in, my mother's name, and how to deliver her to our house. And that's how she was put on the plane.
That's incredible.
And so, and Pedro Pan kids was a generation of highly successful, highly driven individuals. But it was something that you, as a child of a Pedro Pan, have exceeded what my generation of Pedro Pan has done. Not just in your personal success or your personal wealth, but in your contribution to a society. Why do you do this? And I ask
well,
that
the reason
because
I started, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Joe. The reason I started my answer with sharing my mom's story is because it has a whole lot to do with my mom and my dad's story. Yeah. They ingrained in us, and I'm sure like your dad did, from the as far back as I can remember, Joe, how lucky we were and how privileged we were to live in this country. And how we had to work hard. We had to make sacrifices. We saw firsthand the adversity my mom and dad went through growing up. It was not easy going to law school at night for my dad, and for my mom having to deal 21 at the casino, and my dad having to deal in the daytime. But they never failed or stopped reminding us that it's a privilege to be able to work hard. And in this country, if you sacrifice, if you work hard, we have tremendous opportunities. But then also, my dad, with those opportunities comes a sense of obligation. And that's what I admire with what you've done, is you've pursued education, you became a doctor, you worked in a practice with your dad, and then you contributed to the city. Contributed to the schools of medicines across the country now. And when I read your book about how you help the homeless community in Miami. So it's about helping you, helping your family, and providing the best for your family, but then there's a sense of obligation. How do you provide the best for your community? So I tried, very little part, right? What me and my brother tried to do is we're very little. I think first and foremost, I want what's best for my family.
Yes.
And then whatever
And you
we
have
could
3
do
beautiful
afterwards.
daughters.
Thank you. And we're blessed.
That means 3 expensive weddings.
We're very blessed.
I just had one of those.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, 5 years ago with my daughter. Now I have a
Congratulations.
granddaughter, but it was. I gave her an unlimited budget, and she went beyond it. Put it that way. But it's.
I'm not thinking that far ahead yet. My oldest just started Gorman.
Oh, did
her
you really?
sophomore year at
Today's
Gorman.
her first day.
Today.
Today is
her sophomore year at Gorman, and then my youngest 2 are both in middle school at St. Elizabeth's, 8th grade and 6th grade.
Wow.
So
now, did you go to Gorman or?
We grew up in Reno.
Oh, you grew up in Reno.
So we grew up in Reno, and my mom and dad did not move to Vegas until my little brother Orlando graduated from high school.
I got you.
And then when my little brother graduated from high school, my parents they thought Reno was a great place to raise a family.
Right.
And then they're like, let's go to Vegas,
Yes.
a little bit more activity, a little bit more to do.
More.
And that's
And the opportunity he had here with a law firm.
yeah. And then
and
he
to
started
serve.
his law firm in Reno, and he expanded it into Vegas after Orlando graduated from high school.
That's an unbelievable story. But you go beyond that. Cristo Rey is a wonderful story. I think it started in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. They just opened on in Miami. But to lead that organization from a policy perspective and sitting there. And for those of you that are not familiar with Cristo Rey, it takes kids that come from families that are socioeconomically impacted. So if you make more than a certain amount of money, you can't go there. But tell the story of Cristo Rey.
Well, the way I became involved with Cristo Rey St. Viator through my friendship with Francisco Aguilar.
Ah, okay.
And through my friendship with Cisco, at the time, he's currently the Secretary of State of Nevada, as you know.
Who's done a spectacular job.
Amazing.
Yes.
But at the time, he was working with Andre Agassi and Steffi Graf. He was chairman of the Nevada Athletic Commission. And then through our friendship, he was talking about a project he was involved with. He had a dream of starting a new Catholic high school at Cristo Rey Catholic High School in Las Vegas, how there was in Phoenix, or in Tucson. Cisco went to college in Tucson, grew up in Tucson, and there was a Cristo Rey in Tucson, and Cisco thought there should be a Cristo Rey in Las Vegas, and he was he chaired the feasibility committee, but at the time it was just a dream. So for me, it was just a tremendous experience to see Cisco's dream, and then with the contribution of hard work with in great families in foundations like Chris Engelstead, Lindy Schumacher, Father Tom, who is former president of Gorman, and the Valatorians. They were able to make this idea into a reality. And I'm just viewing. I haven't contributed much. As those individuals I just mentioned made that school into a reality, and I'm just blessed to see now the school has had 2 graduating class. The first graduating class, Joe, the valedictorian went to Stanford. He's at Stanford now. So it's just really amazing how individuals in this community could change, hopefully, future generations' lives.
You know, we're working with them with our Genesis program, which is that addresses and mitigates social determinants, in this case of education, whether it's food inequities or health issues and things of that nature. But as I told the former lieutenant governor, the president now at Cristo Rey, and I told her, I said, I have an ulterior motive of working with you all. She said, what's that? I said, I'd like your students to be our medical students. We want these kids to go to medical school. I don't care where they train, they come back, because you know what? First generation college kids, the first ones in their family to earn generational wealth, to give them an opportunity. I mean, you know, we saw our parents struggle to try and make it. And your father is now going to look down and see his granddaughter graduate from Gorman and then graduate from college and maybe law school. You know, when my father went to my daughter's graduation from law school, he was the proudest person you could ever imagine. She gave him a little Harvard lapel pin, which my father was very formal, so he would wear a tie every day. He wore it on his tie. And he asked that when he passed to be buried with that. That and a cross that my son had given him. And so It's those little things that our children are able to do to give joy to our parents when they were here. But Alex, it's interesting talking to you. You're truly one of the most accomplished people I have ever met, yet one of the humblest, which is one of the characters and virtues that my profession needs so badly. I have a sign outside my office that says, humility is not thinking less of oneself, it's thinking of oneself less. And that's just what you did. With all you've done for Cristo Rey, and he takes it like he did nothing but sit on the sideline and watch, you have to go see what he's done at that school. It is one of the most spectacular, beautiful campuses I have ever seen. The kids all wear uniforms. They all work 1 day a week as part of the requirement. I know they work in your law firm. We had 2 kids here this year too, and we plan to do the same, get kids that are interested in the health sciences. But let me ask you a question. With your experience being a true member of the Las Vegas community, what do we need to do differently in medical school?
Well, first, you're far too kind.
Yes.
Your words are far too kind. And
listen, Vegas is lucky as hell to have you.
And before we get to the medical school, which I think I know far too little, but I'll try my best to answer that question. But with it, and you talked about it with Cristo Rey. What's really cool about the Cristo Rey St. Viator experience is each day, starting their freshman year, 1 day out of the week, the students get to work in a corporate environment. They're working at MGM corporate office, at Roseman Medical School, or at De Castroverde Law Group, another big law firm in Nevada or in Las Vegas. And then 4 years of working in a corporate experience. What I love about that is when they're done, they're like, I could be an attorney.
Right.
I can be a doctor. I could someday be a dean of a medical school. And that confidence is a confidence me and you were privileged to have. Because my dad always said, of course you can be a lawyer. Even though I was a really bad student. I was never a good student. I flunked the first grade, graduated high school with a 1.6 GPA, and my dad still told me, of course you could be a lawyer. You just need to try. But a lot of kids, they don't have that confidence.
Well, I had the record for most detentions my senior year.
Oh, wow.
I used to have my own chair that Brother Kevin, who was the head of discipline, said, okay, that's your chair, Guru. You're here every day anyway, so... Fun stuff.
So as far as the medical school, it applies to the legal community as well. And when I talk to, we're privileged. The law school here in Las Vegas. When I was in college, there was no law school in Nevada because the law school my dad went to ended up closing in Reno. So there was no law school when I was in college. UNLV Law School started my first or second year when I was in law school. And we've hired law students from Boyd to clerk for us at our office, to become future lawyers at our office. So we've had opportunities to talk to law students and talk in the law school. And what I tell them when I have an opportunity to speak with them, and especially organizations like the Latino Student Association, is we need more Hispanic lawyers. And not
doctors.
only the community needs it, the law firms needs it. And there's a tremendous opportunity if you're Hispanic or you speak Spanish or any minority group. If you become a lawyer, I think you're going to have more opportunities than most. So I'm confident the same thing applies in what you just said in the medical school. So I think in the medical schools, we do need more. It needs to reflect more of the community.
I couldn't agree with you more, to the point, and I'm sure it's the same thing with law, that if you have an African-American community and you have an African-American physician, the health outcomes of that community improve. Same thing with a Hispanic physician. So if it's a simple thing, this is not just saying we need diversity, this is saying we need healthy people. People need to be healthy.
Yes.
And if this is the direction we got to do it, and people have to have their rights protected. And they have to have their rights protected with somebody that they feel comfortable with, and that's a lawyer that might speak their own language. You're 100% correct. Now, you guys are based out of, well, you're all over your law firm. But your main office is in the east side, right?
Our main office is in downtown Las Vegas on Maryland Parkway.
Okay.
We're down the street from the old Gorman. My dad used to rent a little house on Maryland Parkway near Oakland, right down the street.
Old Gorman.
And then he rented a little house when my brother started working for him. They got a house. They rented 2 houses down. And then when I started working for them, I had to share an office with my dad in that little house we rented. We even shared a computer.
I love
and
it.
then we ended up buying a building on Maryland Parkway, right down the street, across from Circle Park. So now we have several buildings across from Circle Park on Maryland Parkway near Charleston, behind the Huntridge Theater. And since then, we've had a new office in Tivoli Village.
Yes.
And we have an office in Henderson on Eastern and the 215. We have office in Reno. We have 2 lawyers in Dallas. We have a lawyer in Austin, Texas. We had the privilege. We had great
Now
opportunities.
you have, and a law firm started by your father now has over 100 employees, correct?
Yeah, we're approaching 125 employees.
Wow.
Over 25 attorneys. And because of what our dad started here in Vegas, we could learn from. He didn't have mentors. He didn't have, when it came to like how to run a business, how to run a law office, how to serve the community. He was really just learning as he went. My brother and I had the benefit of learning from many, and my dad would have been the first to tell you, through his mistakes. He made a lot of mistakes. And so we had the benefit of learning from his mistakes, which allowed us to grow a successful law firm here in Nevada. What we're trying to do next is make this successful, what we view as a successful law firm in Nevada, serving primarily the Hispanic community, expanded across the United States. Unfortunately, we can't learn from our dad's mistakes when it came to that, because he never opened up offices in other cities. So now my brother and I are the one making a lot of mistakes trying to expand our
Well, I don't
brand.
think you're making mistakes. What you're doing is learning a new market.
We're trying.
Yes. And that's anything I can do to help you guys out.
Thank you. We're
You
trying.
serve a community that's really, really important to serve. Really important to serve. And you're going to come and teach our medical students how to be humble and successful. There's a funny thing that happens in medical school, which is your first day, the dean or somebody will come out in orientation and generally say, "You're the brightest and the best." And I sat there and thought, wow, if only Einstein had gone to med school, he'd be successful. We're not the brightest and the best. What we are is hardworking and disciplined and hopefully mission-oriented. But Alex, having you as a guest here, having people hear your story, having people just meet you, I mean, one of my great joys is saying, I know Alex. He's a friend. I can say that without having to say De Castroverde, And thank you for everything you've done for not just Las Vegas, but for everybody that has been under your mentorship, for all the organizations you work with, for the Cristo Rey, which is just, to me, unbelievable. And how many generations of kids have you touched by doing that? But most importantly, I want to thank your mom and your dad. Because if it wasn't for them, not only would you not be here, you would not be who you are. And I know your mom is still alive. And so with that, Mrs. De Castroverde, you should be very proud of Alex. And I've met Orlando once or twice, and so I can just say the fact that he went to an SEC school makes me happy because I'm a Florida Gator. But is there anything you'd like to end up by saying?
Thank you, Joe. It's an honor to call you a friend. I really value our friendship. I'm really grateful for everything you're doing to help the Las Vegas community better, and we'll be looking back in 10 years from now and saying we are where we are in Las Vegas because of you. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what your team is doing. I met many members of your team. It's outstanding. It's a reflection of the leadership that you're setting forward, because I've been super impressed with your team. So thank you, Joe.
We have a spectacularly brilliant, mission-oriented team that is in the community. We are not a community-engaged medical school. We want to become a community-dependent. We are here to serve. With that, this is Cuba Pete and Mr. Alex De Castroverde.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for being here, but most importantly, thank you for what you do and the example you give all of us. And It just so happens he's Cuban too. So with that, let's have a great day. Let's remember August is also Wellness Month. We just had the Olympics. Let's be as good as the Olympic players. Let's do that well. In September, we have Hispanic Heritage. Let's celebrate this nation we're in. And don't forget to vote. Just vote. That's the privilege we have in America. With that, this is Joe Greer saying, muchísimas gracias. Good day and good night.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, like, and comment on your favorite podcast platform. If you'd like to support the groundbreaking work that Dr. Greer is doing at the Roseman University College of Medicine, please donate at the link below. Thanks for tuning in to No Laughing Matter with Cuba Pete, as together we work to unite the heart and science of healthcare to serve all in our communities. See you next time.